Hi everybody, my name is Alan and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of Bridging Heaven and Earth. First of all, I'd like to thank you all. The last show we did was a show with Judith Orloff, who had written that book Second Sight, and we've gotten tremendous numbers of calls and people in Santa Barbara where the show is taped and it's shown 3 more times have stopped me in the street and asked about a book and all that, and just been really encouraging about the way the show has been going and the vibration of it. And we're really appreciative of that because, sometimes, we're here and the crew and, we do this show and without the feedback we don't know if what we're trying to do, which is bring that vibration of oneness, that vibration of love, the vibration where there is no separation, where there is no division, where there's no conflict. That's the vibration in all its forms that we want to bring through the television cameras, and that's what we're all here trying to do. I know that's what the crew wants, the director and the camera people, audio, and everyone here. I mean, that's their hope and that's their desire. And again tonight we have a guest whose life exemplifies that kind of spirit, that kind of connection. He's had a long and varied spiritual journey and a history, and he's a teacher. He's a teacher of children. He's an artist. We have 10 very extraordinary and powerful paintings that come from that spirit of love, that spirit of oneness. And he's also a poet and a storyteller. And his name is Janaka. And tonight you're going to share with me and with the crew here some of that manifestation, some of that love coming through in talk, in paintings, and in poetry, and in story. So one other thing I'd like to talk to you about is that we got a call from Nora Patty, who is one of our guests in the last recent show. She's a psychic and a healer, and she is, over the next period, leading tours to the sacred sites and the holy sites in Peru and in Egypt. And she would like us to give you that information, and if you're interested, as we usually say during the show, please call me and I'll give you that information about Nora's trips. They should be extraordinarily opening and heart fulfilling. Let me read you a little on her flyer. It's mystery, exploration, discovery from the jungles deep in the Amazon to the ancient temples hidden high in the Andes. This is the one for Peru, obviously. Use the magic of the land to transform you. Dr. Nora Patty, author and spiritual teacher, will activate and guide your transformation through meditation and rituals and calm dance the energy. So if anybody's interested in that, this one, the one to Peru, I think takes place in November, so you'd have to call pretty soon. It's in August where this show is being taped live. So it's 805-687-2053. I'll give you whatever information you need. And also, just one other thing I'd like to talk about is that I've been meeting with a lot of people this week, and it seems like there's difficulties and tests for people and crosses to bear, or however you want to describe it. And to me, what really seems to be happening is that as we get more centered and as more love comes into our lives, we're being tested more. And in my life, there are things coming up that test me and test my desire for love and my desire for that consciousness and concentration, to be in it when the highs and lows of this external world happen, as they always do to all of us. So just please, this is advice from me. I'm giving it to myself and I'm sharing it with you to just keep on trucking, keep that faith, whatever practices you do, be it meditation, sacred dance, yoga, just keep doing it with that love and that concentration, and we'll all get through this and gain in faith and gain in love. So as we usually do at this time, to set a tone and a vibration for the show, let me lead you in a short meditation, or quiet. If you can do a meditation and you have a technique, do it. If not, just close your eyes and just try to be quiet for a few minutes. So join me, please. Thank you. And you know, we like to share all the different aspects of the show, the flyers and all that. So now we would like to, if it's queued up in the control room, we did a promo tape, a 30-second promo tape that was shown locally in the Central Coast, the Santa Barbara area, on different channels, MTV, FX. It's a 30-second video done mostly by Jeff Azevedo, our director. It's for the Judith Orloff show, the last show. We did that because we thought that people would be very interested in hearing her and they knew of her. So whenever you're ready, run the promo tape. It's just 30 seconds. I think you'll really like it. Hi, I'm with Jonica here. Hi, Jonica. Welcome.
Hi, Alan.
And the painting you were just seeing, I guess you got the message that after the promo tape, we put on one of Jonica's pictures, and you'll see that one and 9 others, and he'll explain the inspiration behind them. So let me ask you, I mean, when I read little bits about your history, you've had an extraordinary spiritual journey and throughout the whole world and different paths and things. Why don't you just tell people so they get a feeling from, like, in some sense, where you're coming from in this lifetime, at least?
It's mostly out of desperation that I started my search, because I realized early on, especially in high school, just what the world was offering me out there was not it. And then I had this idea, probably around 20 years old, that life is an adventure. And when I die, I want to look back and say, that was an interesting book. I'm glad I lived it.
It was a good movie.
It was a good movie.
Right.
You know, I'll see it again. You know, so it'd be nice. I'll enjoy the rerun.
Right.
And then when I went to Africa with the Peace Corps and lived in Cameroon for a couple of years, I was out of all definitions that my family placed on me, my friends, and I was.
Where did you grow up?
New.
What part of the country?
In the Bay Area, near
Area.
San Francisco.
So a very cosmopolitan, hip kind of.
Well, it was very middle class, white, just kind of blah.
And then you were in Africa.
I was in Africa, and,
this was with the Peace Corps.
With the Peace Corps.
Right.
And then my definitions, they started falling away. And then I said, okay, I can put on new ones now. So I started experimenting. I would go out into the jungles and without any experience at all. And I really started to learn that there's beings around you protecting you, because that's the only way I could have gotten through some of the stupid things I did.
I mean, you had some particular experiences of real danger, where in a sense, with a tent, that a tree fell out, or you were going to set up a tent. Is that, did I read?
Well, yeah, I went through this Korup Game Reserve, which is one of the thickest parts of Africa, and the first night out there is just full of noises. Couldn't see a thing, just full of noises. And the night passed, got up in the morning, leisurely put my tent away, and about 50 yards away, this huge branch the size of a tree comes smashing down right on my spot where my tent was. Been. And the image I had was of an angel holding up that and saying, "Get going, get out of here,"
Right. Until you left.
Yeah, and finally.
Right.
And I just had all these knowing that there's something guiding me here.
And you had a very strong sense of that as you were proceeding.
Yeah, my dream life is very strong. It's been strong from childhood. And so my dreams, I get more images and messages through dreams than I do so much in this. And that
we call this reality.
This reality,
right.
Yeah.
And also, there was, at some point, there was something about the first poetry book you wrote came to you in a dream. I mean, you were like praying
Right.
to tell that story.
I was in Australia, and I went out on kind of a walkabout on the southern coast of Australia. And I wanted to be a writer. And a lot of the reason I wanted to be a writer is because my father was a writer, and he kind of wanted me to be a writer. So it wasn't really fully my own
Right.
dream, but I wanted to try it. And so I was out in this eucalyptus glade with these black cockatoos, and it was very magical. And after a few days there, I said, God, I really want to write. Give me a story to write. And about 3 o'clock in the morning or so, there's a story of the hermit. And I was just starting to read the Tarot at the time too. And I said, not now, I want to sleep. But the story kept
Right.
pushing at me. So I finally got up and I started to write. And it just started flowing. And then over that year, it was also when I was starting to read the Course in Miracles and going through a whole year of just reading that the silent ripples, parables for the soul, began coming through to help me kind of gain better understanding of what I was reading. Yeah.
So, and then your path led you to various teachers and...
Yeah, and one of my first teachers, God bless him, he taught me about powers.
This was an Indian holy, a Hopi holy?
No, he was...
Or was that later?
This is a guy, I was hitchhiking across the United States, and I came across this group out in near Flagstaff, near the Hopi lands. And this guy he could look at you, and you can go into bliss. Or he could do some mudras, and you feel fire blazing on your neck, and he would read your mind. And there were UFOs flying around, and it was a really incredible experience. He was manifesting jewels for me. He manifested this giant blue topaz, and
wow.
I was quite wow, this guy must be really Sananda.
Advanced,
must be really Sananda, who
right.
he says he is, or El Maitreya, or
right.
the Solar Logos. And I started believing him. And but then I saw the violence that was there, and he was channeling a being that he called Saint Germain, which I don't believe was Saint Germain, but I actually saw him pick up somebody by the throat because he wasn't obeying him. And I left. And he said, well, you're going out into the outer rim of darkness because you're not following me, who I'm the Son of God. And it was a major lesson, because as a child...
How long ago was that? How old were you?
That was Harmonic Convergence time. Yeah.
So that not even that long ago?
It wasn't that long ago. And for me, it was...
How long were you with this person?
About 3 months. 3 months out in the desert. And it was a fast dose. Right. And it was because when I was a child, I think, I was fascinated with the occult.
Uh-huh.
And I started to...
With
the music, with power, with
right.
cities. With,
right.
and he was a
love
great lesson.
in a way is much more subtle.
Right, very much more subtle.
Right.
And then when Satya Sai Baba of India started coming into my dreams, I said, I don't need anybody who's showing these what I call powers.
Right.
But my dreams are telling me that he wasn't about powers, it's about love.
Love, right.
And so it was years of fighting his contact with me, and who I call, for me, the kind of the divine mystery, because I don't know what to call him. I just know he's a guiding force.
We were talking about that earlier.
He's
Why do you have to call him anything?
Yeah, he's a guiding force.
He does something for you.
Right.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So we have a lot of your paintings here, and I think everybody would like to see them. Would you like to start that off with a poem? You have that poem, Enthusiasm. Do you have it with you?
Yeah, this is from Footprints Along the Shore of an Incoming Tide, which I wrote a few years ago. Started to write. Over a few years, these poems came out. And these also came out with inspirations from what either states of consciousness that I found myself in, or after reading something and being inspired. And this is called Enthusiasm. I spent the day with my son, who nears his 5th year upon this earth, watching him as he ran about exploring the world around him, his eyes alight with glee. That electricity, by following what his heart bids him do, propels him through the day with boundless energy. Enthusiasm originates from the Greek enthusiasmos, to be possessed by the God. How wonderful to be so possessed, to be inspired. People spend their days grudgingly doing tasks, enslaved by the mind that tells them that they can only do this or that. Day after day, they hope for the lottery, to be free to fulfill their dreams, dreaming, praying, while their eyes become more sunken and their bones more protruding, and gravity becomes more relentless to pull their bodies back into the soil. O adventurer of the cosmos, take up your banner of joy and go out into the jungle and roar with the tigers and charge with the rhinos and live each day with the light shining in your eyes. Jonica has, and the toy chest of heaven lies open for him to pick and choose, with angels anxiously waiting to bear such gifts. When your body drops, a rerun of your life you'll see. Make it a good one, when no yawns will drown out the words. Make it a show at which you can smile, laugh, say ooh and ah, which finishes in a crescendo of a wow. The infinite self needs nothing to add to itself, so it does not tell you to grab something outside, which will give you that happiness you seek, but you only believe is to be found on a Hollywood screen. That self which you are and share with all that is happiness complete, wanting to express in this wonderland of delight. If you feel anger at a desire thwarted, happiness did not send you that way, but only the shadow of unfulfillment. Let every moment be your desire, free of the whips of shoulds, that you may be donned in creation's garment, removed by angelic hands from the toy chest of God. Janaka wears this garment, is given everything he needs, and each moment his heart utters, wow.
Okay, maybe what we can do now is, why don't you just describe the paintings, like from left to right, and we'll just try to pick them up on the camera.
Well, the one on the left, which is called the Leap, it's has a spirit of enthusiasm. It's taking that leap across the abyss. That's how I see it. And it's comes from the lighter side into the darker side, and that's what I feel we all have to do, is take that leap into the dark and
into the unknown.
Into the unknown,
right.
Into the mystery in there. And you notice that she's wrapped in this gown of the sky. It's becoming the sky as well. It's becoming the creation.
So it's a bridging. It's like a merging.
It's a bridging, it's a merging, and it's the joy of dancing and going into the struggle too, into the strife, into the unknown.
The duality.
Yeah. It's embracing that.
And how? And these pictures recent, or are these?
Yeah, these are. This is a series called a Jiva series, which is Sanskrit for the soul, and this is over the past 2.5 years, where these started to come about.
And these, I've read different things about you in different articles. They're called inner visionary paintings or stuff.
A lot of it just comes out of the color. I start working with the color, and then I'll start seeing images that arise. And
do these come in dreams, or
just
it's hard to say?
When I really come clearly to a painting, excuse me, it's being blank and just working with colors and having the joy of colors, and then seeing something that arises.
Okay, now I think we're going to the triptych, which is the...
Yeah, and if you look at the middle one, that was the first one of this triptych piece, called Walk Between Hills. And that came about because my wife Renee, she brought home this beautiful green candle holder. And she put it on one night, she lit it, and the bowl shape, which is where that, in the middle, that was reflecting on the wall with this orange glow, and I could see this person walking between these hills. I said, there's the... And so I immediately made a sketch, and then next morning I started this painting. And then the other two came about, and this reminds me of an ancient brotherhood. There's a feeling of going into the sacred schools and sending out the initiates out into the world to give the knowledge, what they discovered in here.
Did this thing come to you like all at once? And I mean, how did you decide that this was going to be a triptych rather than, you know, one in one?
Well, a friend of mine's.
Or did you only have three smaller?
Actually, one of an owner
canvases at the time?
Well, I had the center one, and that stayed there for a long time, just by itself. And then someone suggested, who's in the art world, she goes, you know, I'm getting this message that you should do 3 of these.
One on either side.
Yeah, one on each. And I go, let me see. And then I said, yeah, let me try it. I'll play with that idea. And then he came out on the left, which I really love him.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen other your paintings, and I guess we'll all see them later. And there is like that the mage or the Merlin character, the master, the older masters in a lot of them. I think we'll see those in the next section. But I love that character. You know, some of your other paintings that have that as the central focus is really fantastic. Okay, so now this one, which one? What's the name on this one?
This is up from the Kiva, And
why don't you describe what a kiva is, because that's in Hopi.
Yeah.
Hopi.
Kiva is the ceremonial site that the Hopis use, and I believe the Navajos use it as well, of going into the earth and having their ceremonies and their prayers. And I see it as going into the earth and going into the darkness, and then there's this arising, the ascension, basically. And I just started with this painting from the picture of a kiva that I saw in a sacred architecture book. I did a lot of sketches on it and other type of preliminary drawings. I was fascinated by this architectural design. And then these other beings started coming out, and I had no idea that they would come out. And a lot of times my paintings are done through mistakes. If I all of a sudden have this idea, I try to set it out there and it doesn't start working. So I make a mistake and I say, okay, this looks like something else.
We only call it a mistake.
Right.
I mean, really, it's just, destiny took us there, like as you notice from this show.
Right. It's just
it's ever changing.
That's true. And that's what I'm a teacher at the Waldorf School in Corvallis, and we teach the children that's okay to make mistakes. If you write something and it's a smear, well, make that smear into an elephant.
Let me ask you something. How do you feel about, like, when you define it as a mistake? Is it already like, because a mistake is like we give a negative connotation. Could it be as described as something other than the way we originally planned? I mean, you know what I mean? Because I mean, it's interesting to me because there is some.
It's kind of like a weed. Sometimes we think a weed is a...
Right, and the weed could be the healing...
Yeah, it could be the plant, it could be something that's a volunteer plant.
Right.
This comes up, this volunteer action that came out, and you go,
right.
Oh, wow, that's a cantaloupe. I think I'll enjoy that.
Right, I mean, if you've done any, farming, if you have a compost pile, you'll see tomato plants just sprouting.
Yeah.
And these are the richest, healthiest tomatoes right out of this dump. And the ones you planted all in a row aren't nearly as good or anything.
Yeah, it's hard not to define anything with
Humans
our language.
do that, yeah.
I mean, our mind does that.
It's interesting, but it's okay to do it if you don't give it like a depth. It's like putting on a shirt. You don't identify with the shirt or the jacket, but you wear it because if you went out otherwise in town, you'd end up in a slammer, something.
Yeah, so you have a definition and you use it and you throw it away if you have to.
Yeah, we had this harpist on a little while ago, Joel Andrews, and he said, rules are important until you have the experience. Then once you have the experience, you don't need the rules there. And words are, similar to that.
Right, and tradition.
Right, and tradition and rituals are another thing that, are things that help us remember and bring us home to that center. So, but you see your art basically is like a way to experience what you would call the divine or the infinite, and a way to share that.
Yeah,
or your poetry the same, or your teaching the same.
Right, my poetry, my writing, the reminders for me. Right. When I'm in that state, when I look back on my painting, I say, oh yeah, I can remember that state I was in. And also that, maybe I'm going through some stuff that we're all going through, this time I can look at my paintings and go, oh yeah, I remember that.
It's almost like
reminder.
a picture of a teacher, or
Yeah.
it just, oh yeah, that's what I'm about.
Right.
I'm about that devotion. I'm about that love, rather than about the drama that I'm going through at the moment. That looks real.
Right.
So I guess at any moment is the video queued up? We have a video that one of the real fans of Bridging Heaven and Earth, and one of our I have actually some stuff that he has sent us about the rainforest. We showed a clip last season about that, but we have a clip of his called Light. So whenever you're ready to see it, it's a very beautiful clip. Here it comes. Hi, welcome back. I hope you liked that video. That was by DaVid and the Light Party. And as I said, he sent some information here that I'd like to share with you at the end. But now we're back with Jonica. We have 5 more of his paintings set up, which we'll see in a little while. But I would like to talk to you a little bit about, now it seems like your focus is really on teaching children. So how did that kind of evolve, and what's your experience doing that? It must be really extraordinary.
Well, I did training 3 years ago up in Eugene, Waldorf Teacher Training Program. And it was a wonderful 2-year program. My art blossomed. I was able to...
And this is under the Waldorf system with
Rudolf
Steiner.
Rudolf Steiner, which emphasizes creativity as, especially as a teaching of grade children. It's to everything. It's artistically. You teach math artistically. You teach reading artistically. You teach everything artistically, so that their interest is engaged.
With creativity.
Everything is done
right.
beautifully.
Everything is done
everything
with
is
consciousness.
Done beautifully.
Right.
And
I mean, it's so silly. Why would you think we'd be otherwise?
Yeah.
It's so like, hello.
It's not a input,
right.
output.
Right. I mean, you're dealing with like energy and vibration and love. You
Right.
want to love these people, not just ram information.
Well, it's the whole principle that these beings come in with wisdom
Right.
already that they've gained,
And you're just triggering it.
and you're
opening.
simply
Right.
guiding. 8 years, you have the
Right.
duty and the joy and the responsibility and the sacred relationship of guiding a group of children through 8 years of their lives. and helping them bring out this wisdom and keeping that interest and the joy of learning.
So you just moved from the LA area where you're doing a lot of your painting, and it was more the center of where exhibits were being held, and you've moved to Oregon to basically focus on teaching now.
Yeah, I was co-teaching at a small independent school in Topanga Canyon, but it was a parent-run school, and they weren't really sure what they were doing, and so it was Waldorf-inspired, but it wasn't Waldorf, and I was still, a lot of my focus was split between my artwork and teaching. And then on Good Friday, I was at a gallery owner's house in Palm Springs, and I woke up, well, I had this dream with Sai Baba, and Sai Baba in the dream said, going up to Oregon and teaching is a good thing. And I woke up.
Was this before you had made that decision?
I had made that decision, but I was going, oh, I'm going to teach, but being a Waldorf teacher is there's so much commitment. I knew my painting was just going to start going off.
You just weren't going to have time.
And I was kind of lamenting over that. I was grieving over not doing my
that
artwork.
loss, in a sense.
And then after that dream, I woke up and I said, I don't have to be an artist anymore. I don't have to prove to anyone that my art is worth anything. It's an expression of my being.
Right.
And I know my dharma. I know
dharma
my duty.
Meaning your path, your duty.
My duty, where my heart bids me go, and that's to be a teacher. And my
art. And so far, that's felt really like harmonious since you got there.
It's like a veil. It's like a veil that was lifted. Because when I was in Australia, I also had a big drinking challenge. I love to drink, and to kind of numb myself from the world. And after doing the Course in Miracles, it was a New Year's of I think '82, and all of a sudden I'm at this party, I'm drinking. I said, "Oh, this tastes terrible, and this music. What am I doing here?"
And I don't like these people.
And it was lifted. I didn't have to worry about.
Right. It was perfect.
Stopping drinking.
Nothing felt good. Nothing.
It's just like,
yeah, right.
That's over. Okay, new chapter.
You know, sometimes it's like such an incredible gift like that you don't want it anymore. You know, at some point you're like, your desire was so great. It's like that desireless desire, but it just goes away.
Yeah, you see that with children, that all of a sudden at 3 years old or something, they don't need to, like my son, he didn't all of a sudden need to sleep with us. Right. He had his own bed. He didn't need to all of a sudden need to have diapers. He was just on the potty. Just these chapters, if you just allow him to grow,
but
and there's that nurturing.
19 was a little late.
Yeah, 19's a little late for
but thank God it happened, right?
So, and that's, I think,
I think everybody would like to see some more of your pictures. You wanted to do a little story before that? What is the story behind the story? What is it? It's called The Flame, right? The
Flame. This is one of the stories that came to me when I was in Australia. And I spent about 7 months there hitchhiking around the continent. And this is called The Flame.
And this is another one of the books you've put out, Ripples of the Soul.
Silent Ripples, Parables for the Soul. And these you can download if you're...
No, just they'll call me and I'll give information.
Yeah, these are you know,
805-687-2053. I'll give you whatever information you want about Jonica, about Nora's Nora's trips, and also I'll talk to you about DaVid a little later, but yeah, why don't you start there?
This is The Flame. Within a hollow chamber in a mountain lived a flame, hidden from the eyes of the world. It was a small flame, but always steady, never wavering. The flame felt safe within this mountain fortress, for none of the world's dirt would ever be able to smother it. For 108 years the flame steadily burned, alone in its mountain home. Then the day came, when entered the mountain chamber a beautiful moth. "How did you, moth, come into my chamber?" asked the flame. "You are unbidden and unwelcome, so turn around and fly back to whence you came." "Oh, lovely flame, forgive my intrusion," said the moth, flying in circles around the flame. "Yet, however you may think you are safely hidden from the eyes of the world, you cannot hide. The heat from your fire slips through the crevices of your mountain walls. Moreover, as we speak, O brilliant flame, a multitude of moths, as many as there are stars shining in a clear night sky, flutter in the night's air, searching for a crack that leads to you." "No, this cannot be," moaned the flame, flickering in agitation. what ruin this means. O wondrous flame, why do you lament so? Why do you so fear? Can you not see, harbinger of misfortune? Are you blind to the doom that now comes to me? Look upon your wings and tell me what you see. It is only dust I carry, beloved flame. But it is the dust of the world, replied the flame, its very dirt, and a billion of you carry it upon your wings. Surely, O treacherous moth, you and the others seek to smother me to extinction. The moth ceased its circling and alighted upon the chamber's floor. It bowed to the flame and then peered upward, its 4 hands together, its fingers touching its forehead. O silly flame, know you not that you are eternal? We seek not your ruin, even if we could. We come only for we must. For so long I flew aimless and alone through the night, fearing to be spied by some predator's eyes, and yes, much of the world's dust I gathered upon these flights. Then one night I beheld a glow shine forth from this mountain. Like a net aglow in the darkness, it captured my heart, and all the world fell away, lost. For I thought of nothing but to find that source of that light. Night after night I searched for the slightest entrance to the heart of the mountain. However, your mountain walls lie thick, the crevices set in a maze, and long it took me. But now I am here, O beckoning flame, in those nights when time loomed larger than your mountain, adorned with frustration and despair, seem now to be only a snowflake in your fiery hands. And, O precious flame, my soul's home, those others out there beating madly against your walls with their wings are as I. They come, though they know not why. Dear, dear flame, we seek not to destroy you. We are simply fodder to add to your very own fire. We fly to where destiny guides. And with that, the moth flew straight into the heart of the flame. And the flame lessened not a bit, as it had feared, but flared brilliant a moment before returning to its normal steady blaze. The flame enjoyed that feeling very much and thought of all the awaiting moths fluttering in the night. The flame smiled, and down tumbled the mountain walls, whereby the flame stood exposed to the waiting 1,000,001 moths, each carrying upon its wings the dirt of the world. Without thought they came, straight into the heart of the flame, transforming the flame into the sun.
So let's start going over the pictures. I think people would really like to see that. The first one is, one of the first 2 of my favorites. You sent me slides, and those are the ones I was drawn to for some reason.
Yeah, the first one's called A Warrior, and Renee, she won't let me get rid of that one.
Is that Renee's favorite too? Renee's
my wife,
Janica's wife. Yeah,
and
that's my favorite.
And she
too.
watched it emerge. The faces kept changing, and
yeah, the face. I think the front face is really. And
he's a spiritual warrior.
Right.
He's out there, and he's determined. He's the sort of discrimination to decide to know what's real and what's not real. And although he's out there in the desert, he's strong and determined, and there's nothing going to stop him.
And how do you see the back? Is that a meditative figure? Is that part of him?
Yeah, I see it as almost like a close up and a far shot of himself, watching himself, perhaps. The desert scenes. One of my favorite parts of my childhood was going to the Southwest. So I have a lot of mesas and buttes in my work. I find it very inspiring.
Yeah, it's kind of like the ocean. It's like there's something so vast about it.
It was the ocean at one point. So you still had the silence and the roaring, the roaring of the silence in the ocean, in the desert, in there. And then the second one, through the Badlands. This also has the same quality for me as the warrior.
Right. That was the sense I had.
Yeah, it's going through those rough times and still seeing the light. And it's the warrior aspect of the male, which is a lot of times lost now in our society, especially with the teenagers. it's not encouraged.
Why don't you talk about that a little? That's interesting to me.
Well, it's
because a lot of women would say that, you know, it's so much male dominated that, you know, there's too much warrior and not enough of the female energy.
It's the proper use of a warrior, the warrior who protects the children, protects the women, who
like
protects
the elder warrior.
The elder warrior, who's he's there to protect the community. Instead of what the males I see in society do is they have to do the 9-to-5 grunge and doing work that they're not. They're kind of like, this is what.
It's not nurturing them. It's
yeah,
not
and this is what you are, and they don't have that warrior spirit to break out and say, no, it's not who I am. I'm going to take my chance here.
Right.
And go through my own jungles in there. And it's a proper.
Do you see that breaking down or becoming more? What is your estimation? How are the children? I mean, you see a lot of children, probably more than I do.
Well, in the Waldorf schools, that warrior spirit is encouraged with stories of knights, using might for right, as Arthur encouraged, changed that warrior spirit that was only proving how strong they were for their own ego glory. And they said, well, come on, lads, let's create a round table and we'll discuss great deeds of valor that we've done to help
equally around the round table.
So he changed that might for right in here. That since that isn't so really honored, you have these teenagers coming in who need initiation. They need to have that male community say, okay, we're going to take you out and have a vision quest. And we're going to be there supporting you. And maybe, yes, you may even meet death, but you're going to come out.
Certainly going to meet fear.
There's a good chance
you're going to meet fear.
Right. And you may even die. And that's okay.
Right.
We have such a fear of death.
Absolutely.
Yet we kill and
living
kill. And
living in fear is worse than being dead.
Yeah, and so these children are looking for that initiation, so they go through these gangs that go through being beaten and all this stuff.
They look for drama and stuff.
Yeah.
Why don't you describe the third one? Maybe we'll get back to it. I think the cameras are picking it up now.
The third one, upon the shore, is, you see this, it's the sun, which is, I look at as consciousness, and it's focusing on consciousness, focusing on the divine light. And there's this being who's finally, the jiva has come to the shore of the ocean. And in a lot of the Eastern...
Well, explain jiva.
Jiva, the soul.
The soul.
The individual soul.
Right.
And has come to the shore of divine consciousness and is ready to take that merge. And you can see the shawl that he or she is wearing is images of that being in there again, but slightly different. And it's kind of like the probabilities. I look at it as kind of these lines of creation diverging on this moment of enjoying this last moment before the plunge into all that is. So.
You mean like just the leap into the abyss, in a sense?
Into the oneness.
Into the oneness.
Into the oneness and letting go of that little self.
The small identity.
The little self of me, this is the little definitions that has boxed that little soul in.
And it's, you know, it's so constricting that once you let it go even a little, you know, you just feel so liberated.
Oh, yeah.
And so this next one with the stars?
Know thyself. And this is, again, the sense of the initiate being guided, and it's going down this path of, I call it self-inquiry, or the knowledge of, or the question of who am I? Who am I really? And going into the cave of one's beingness. And one of my teachers, I consider my spiritual teacher, Ramana Maharshi, he gave the advice to his students of asking the question, who am I, constantly. Make that your primary question, finding out who you are. So you go down into the cave of your being, and lo and behold, who do you find you are? You're everything. You're the whole universe.
You're everyone and everything.
And you look at the figure down, he's kind of looking over the cliff, and it's like, whoa, I'm everything. And there's still that last plunge, and it's an awesome knowledge to have. So know thyself, and you know that you're the universe, as I think Aristotle said in there.
I don't know, what you folks at home, actually I see the monitor here and the camera people are just really doing fantastic work. So camera people, they do have names actually. And Jerry, Jolef, and Michael, beautiful work. I mean, from what I've been seeing, looking half at the paintings and half at the monitor, the camera here, it's just beautiful. The pictures are really coming alive incredibly. And here's the last one. Why don't you describe this one, Janaka?
Yeah, this is the call to the master. And sitting under we see all these jivas, these disciples. And white for the jiva is the purity. It's finally wiping off all the stains of ignorance and stains of anger and jealousy and desires that keep you back. And so these beings are now able to come to the foot of the master, and I use Ramana Maharshi as my my subject, but it's the master is all that is. It's the one self, and it comes in many forms. And he's sitting under the tree of knowledge, that golden knowledge. And there's a sense of devotion and respect that comes to knowledge. So it's the heart and knowledge is the prime ingredients, the union to self-realization. That's how I see this painting in here. That's one of my
It's just
favorites.
the reverence for consciousness, the reverence for love.
And tradition too. Yeah, and tradition. Because I think just in my artwork, I would not have been able to get to where I am if I didn't have the tradition of studying Raphael and the Renaissance masters. And you have to honor the tradition where you come from, but everything is evolving.
Everything
is evolving.
It, right.
It's different than just going to abstract painting without ever knowing how to draw a form. You haven't really earned it. You don't know the foundations, the roots of just coming to that abstract painting in there. So I think tradition needs to be acknowledged.
So would you say that, like for you, in terms of however way you're manifesting, be it teaching or art or poetry, it's to find like the peace in manifestation, to find that inner peace, to experience that oneness within.
Yeah, Rudolf Steiner, he looked at everything's like in the figure 8 between formless and form. And a lot of my focus in my spirituality has been finding that formlessness of beingness, of just finding that oneness and knowing that I am divine no matter what I do, that absolute quality, that intrinsic factor X.
That's what you're made of.
Right.
There's nothing
you can't
else.
Add to
There's
it.
nothing
you
else.
Can't take away
right.
from it. It's always divine.
Right.
It's like space. You can move your hand through space. You can throw a bomb in space. You can't do anything to space. It's always there, and everyone's moving through it. You can't get out of it. It's divine. You can't do anything. That's the essence. Yet there's also form, and this is what I'm learning more of. There is that creative aspect where you strive for perfection, where you constantly work on yourself as a human being to be better and better and better, just like an artwork. I'm not satisfied with any of my pieces. They all need to grow and to be better, yet they're not who I am. And I'm confident and I'm secure, most times, of who I am. But I can still enjoy the struggle and the striving of perfection in there. So it's having that balance,
the harmony.
Balance in there. And that's also where morality comes in too.
Yeah, and integrity.
Integrity.
Right.
You can get, I see this in a lot of people who are into that kind of abstract spirituality, is that they can get everything is God, everything is great, but they may do actions that they're not
certainly
integrity.
don't line up with.
They don't line up
exactly.
with that, and they say,
right.
well, everything's fine. It's okay to make mistakes. Yes, it is okay to make mistakes, but there's also consequences for everything that we do too.
Right.
So it's that fine line. It's that razor's edge.
Well, and taking responsibility that you're in a human body, that you're bridging heaven and earth,
Yes.
and how do we, keep the balance in there of
Right.
spirit in a human body? That's the test.
And the
here.
earth.
And
the earth, and honoring the earth, the form.
Well, my whole experience is if you felt the oneness, I mean, how could you treat another person or a tree or the ocean with anything but love?
Right.
It's just we don't have that experience enough, so we experience the difference in the separation.
Right.
So then it's like, you know, you throw crap in the ocean, it's like, what's the ocean? But if you experience the ocean as you, or a tree as you might have to throw something
right.
into it, you might have to cut it down, but you would do it with a different kind of experience.
Right.
You would do it with love, if it's, you know, if it's actually required at the time.
Right. I had this period of grace. It was 2 years ago after I was going through a major separation. I went through this initiation called Ascension Initiation, and for 3 days I was in a place where I couldn't even think of fearful thought. The whole concept of separation was just ludicrous.
Right.
It was totally ludicrous, and then it started to become lower, where I could, the thoughts after a few days, the thoughts would come of fear, and say, okay, I can play with those thoughts, or I can just let them go. And then as more drama happened in this life,
right.
then, okay, here's the fear thoughts, and I have to kind of dodge them and you know, work with them. But it was being in that state. I think that's where we're going. Is that
exactly
the whole we're rising in a different.
We're rubbing up against the magnet enough times that we become the magnet, and that's
yeah.
we become the experience. There's no.
And we're moving in a higher octave
right.
in musical
right.
language. We're going
exactly.
into a higher octave where fear thoughts, which are so down and
right.
low.
Right. Let me just do this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
We showed a tape last year about the redwood rainforest, and I was sent this by DaVid of the Light Party, and I thought I'd like to read it to you. A call to conscience and commitment for the preservation and protection of the headwaters redwood rainforest. We are deeply concerned that 60,000 acres of priceless, pristine, ancient redwood forests in Humboldt County, North Carolina are now being threatened with destruction by Charles Hurwitz, junk bond financier and CEO of the Pacific Lumber Maxim Corp. To allow the destruction of this primeval forest ecosystem, in truth, is to damage our national soul, to allow the forces of corruption, arrogance, and greed to destroy that which is sacred and beautiful, constitutes an abdication of responsibility to oneself, one's nation, and to that which is eternal and sacred. The issue is crystal clear. So, I mean, that's basically what the issue is about. Now, this is the new letter that just went out recently from the Light Party. Dear friends, greetings. As you know, the Light Party has been deeply committed to the preservation of the Headwaters redwood rainforest. The Headwaters controversy has become a national issue of the same magnitude as Save the Whales and Save the Dolphins. On September 14th, that's September 14th, 1997, a landmark event will be taking place in Carlotta, California, the site of the Headwaters and Pacific Lumber Maxim Corporation. This promises to be the largest nonviolent civil disobedience demonstration in the history of the environmental movement. In synchronization with this event, epic-making event, the Light Party has committed to placing the enclosed announcement, act now to protect the ancient redwoods, which I just read you part of, in the op-ed USA Today page for the weekend of September 14th. This will expose this powerful message to over 6 million people nationwide. Hopefully it will serve to further awaken the national consciousness and empower people and our national leadership to join together to protect and preserve this sacred national heritage. We have an unprecedented opportunity now to successfully resolve the Headwaters controversy, which is a metaphor for the environment versus the economy debate. So, I mean, basically, when we saw this film last year, and to see the magnificence and the beauty of these redwoods, and to tear them down for decks and, redwood chairs and stools, it seems like there must be other places they can get them from. These are just our brothers and sisters. They're brothers and sisters of love. And we should really maintain them with whatever we can do to do that. So, they're trying to work out a deal with the government. So if you want any information about the Light Party or about this demonstration or about how you could participate, please give me a call, 805-687-2053. That's 805-687-2053. I'd like to thank you all for coming. I'd certainly like to thank Janaka. He came down from Oregon to be on the show, and then he drove down to visit friends in LA, and he drove up from LA to be here. He brought all the paintings with him. We're honored to be there. Please remember, whatever difficulties you might think you're having in your life, that there's light on the other side of the tunnel. Have the faith, have the glory. It's all there for you. The experience you want is coming, it's available, and you know, hopefully we'll just keep doing shows. We love you. Thank you. Good night. God bless you.
God bless.